Hello, I'm John Brink and I'm podcasting from Central British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people that are wondering where's British Columbia, well, they know where Canada is. We are on the West Coast in British Columbia, in Central British Columbia, 500 miles north of Vancouver, or for our European friends, 800 kilometers. And today we have an amazing guest. His name is Dan Berger, and he is an Israeli-American entrepreneur extraordinaire, I should add to it, because he is amazing in what he has accomplished. His newest venture is Assemble Hospitality Group, is a new lodging concept for the corporate retreats. He's previously led the Social Tables on an event planning software company which was acquired by Blackstone-owned Cvent in 2018. He sold it for $100 million. Prior to that venture, he served as a member of Congress. And I can just go on and on and on. Dan. Oh yeah, the other thing I should mention, he is a recipient of numerous industry awards, including the Pacesetter Award from the Defense Industry Council. Dan holds a BA from Hunter College and an MBA from Georgetown University. And then he is also an author, and he wrote the book, The Quest, and we'll be talking about that as well. Dan, what can I say? Tell us about yourself, your background, your history a little bit, and obviously we know where you were educated. How did you go from that into becoming the entrepreneur extraordinaire that you are?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me on. And second of all, let me just tell you, the audience, that we're neighbors. I live in Idaho, and I live in Boise, Idaho, and Idaho shares a bit of a border with British Columbia. So that's pretty cool.
I love Idaho.
So do I. My wife, not so much, but I love it. So, you know, it's a tough question, because I really like to start the question by saying it all started when I was born, and it was my first trauma of being adopted. And being adopted meant I didn't have a sense of belonging. And not having a sense of belonging made me always try to find a sense of belonging. And that was started, you know, by bringing friends together, but it really ultimately led to my entrepreneurial venture for two reasons. The first one is because I never felt a sense of belonging. I wanted to create a company that brought people together. And the company that I started, Social Tables, was event planning software that would let people see who was seated at their table at a wedding. And that came from my anxiety of going to events and not feeling a sense of belonging. So I thought, well, what if everybody around the table knew who was going to be at the table so they can have more meaningful connections? And so that trauma led me to starting my company. But then as soon as I started my company and I grew it to 120 people and 20 million in revenue, I realized that I was creating a sense of belonging for my employees and for myself. So that's kind of the root of it, this belonging trauma from being an adoptee, being an immigrant, not speaking a word of English when I moved here, my father abandoning us when I was 2. So all these belonging traumas led me to where I am today.
Isn't it amazing how the foundation that is your past, where it all started and how it happened to you along the way, became the foundation of who you are today? I can just share a little bit about me with you and our guest as well. I was born in 1940, so actually I will be, on November the 1st, I will be 85 years young.
God bless you.
Well, thank you. And I was born in northeastern Holland in November the 1st, 1940, obviously at the start of the Second World War. And just talking a little bit about family as you do, because it is so critically important to who I am, who I became, where I came from, and all the things that happened during the time. My mom and dad were married in 1938, and they were in love. And my dad had a job at a lumber company, and they rented a little duplex, and they were the happiest people people in the world. And they very quickly had a boy and a girl. And then what happened is that the dictator Adolf Hitler decided that Poland in 1939 should be part of Germany, and then it was obvious that he was going to invade the rest of Europe, Western Europe as well. So my dad was called into the Dutch army in April of 1940, and the last time they saw him was just before the bombing of Rotterdam. And Hitler bombed Rotterdam because he didn't feel that Holland capitulated quick enough for him. So he bombed the center of Rotterdam. This amazing, amazing city. Thousands of people died for 5 years. My mom wouldn't know if he lived or died. And so it was tough and difficult. And I still have the memory of when I was 3.5 years old, when the Allied forces were bombing the infrastructure of German war machine. Hundreds of bombs in the air is still a sound that I still remember and always will stay with me. And then the other part, obviously, is that we saw far too much that we should not have seen. And, then on April the 12th, 1945, we were liberated by the Canadian Army. And it made such an impression on me that I knew from the time that I was 5 years old, as I grew up, I would go to the land of my heroes, Canada. And I did. When I was 24, started with nothing, couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job, started as a cleanup man, and then became a lumber pilot, and then fairly quickly became ranked up the ranks, and today we have a number of companies, but it's not about that really, but it's, it's paradise and the land of opportunity, but I still have affected by PTSD, got counseling in my 50th for the inner child, and some people ask the question, likely, did he come back, your dad? Yes, he did, when the war was over, but he was never the same again,
That reminds me of seeing my grandparents during the first Gulf War with gas masks on their table, in the kitchen table, thinking that there was going to be an attack, a chemical attack. And obviously, coming from Israel, there's a traumatized nation of people who just can't go to McDonald's without being frisked. So I love America. I'm grateful for this country, and I share that gratitude that you have for Canada with the same sort of gratitude for America.
You see, and then as you do and as I do, I fly a lot, do a lot of business in the United States, and when I fly, I'm also a pilot, but if I fly commercial jets, I do a lot. I always sit by the window, and especially flying over Canada in the United States, I sit there because I look outside and I say, it's paradise. And so the other thing that I do is that even at 85 years old, young, and I'm still very, very active. I get up in the morning at 5:30. I always make my bed, and I always think I'm late. And and when I get outside, when I open the door, I say to myself, no matter what, I live in paradise. I avoid negative, and so I have a plaque here that my I get so excited about this. So
yeah.
So,
love it. Go.
So when I came to Canada, I wanted to start with nothing, and so I landed in Montreal, took the train across Canada. 4 days, 5 nights. My God, that is a long way. Anyway, so when I was going to build a lumber mill, that was my dream. Going to Canada, second dream was to build my own lumber mill. And so when I came off the bus, off the train in Vancouver, went to the immigration department. I could speak English, but fortunately there was a German fellow that I could speak a little bit of German. And so I told him what I wanted to do is build a lumber mill. He said, go to Prince George in northern BC, and that's where I am now. 60 years later, I can still see where the Greyhound station was here. I came off the bus, and I had a suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I counted my money at least 3 times. I had $25.47. And But what I did have is attitude, is that I, even still now, I always did that, avoid the negative. And so, and then passion, whatever I do, I give it 120%. And work ethic, as I said earlier, I work harder even now at 85 than anybody around me. And I love it. Every day to me is a special day.
You know, thank you for sharing that. I was raised by two social workers, middle class, and my mom was so scared when I was going to start my own company. But I did it because I believe in America and in Canada, people can do anything they want. I truly believe that.
I do.
You have the work ethic. There is unlimited opportunity. I don't care who you are, where were you born, what the color of your skin is, doesn't matter. Sure, there are systemic problems, but at the end of the day, you can succeed here if you freaking work.
I agree with you, Dan. And so my last book that I did is this one, $1 Billion.
Yes.
This came out in July, bestseller. It's all about communication skills. And then I'm writing another one that will come out next July. And I say, and the title will be Add You Can. Anything is possible. And so right. It is, you know, and it's the land and the you know, between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, it's an opportunity. With huge opportunities.
You know, you remind me of the book by William. I just started reading his books, William McRaven, and he's a former general, I think very decorated veteran. And he's got his first book is Always Make Your Bed. And he says, because when you make your bed in the morning, you at least have an accomplishment. Exactly. And starting that way. So I love his writing style, and I love what you said. I'm still figuring out my morning routine. But it's certainly less and less to reach for my phone, and to really start with, well, usually my wife makes the bed because she wakes up later, but making sure that my bed is made and that I get dressed nice no matter what I do. And if I go to the gym, I'll change. But I think that is so important in how you show up, because that sets the tone for the day.
I love it. And so in my case, my wife, myself, been together for 42 years. And so we have also a place in North Saanich on Vancouver Island.
You were married at 43.
83.
No. You were married. You've been married. You were 43 years old when you got married.
Correct. Second marriage. Yeah.
Okay, I got married. Yeah, I got first marriage, but I got married. Said my wife second, but I got married at 41. So I'm glad you're giving me hope for a long and happy marriage.
Oh yeah, no, I love it.
Because we know that's also a secret to entrepreneurship, right? Is that having that sense of belonging at home.
Critical. Because you can't do it alone, and having that support, because entrepreneurship, a lot of people think that what you do mainly is planning holidays and bringing money to the bank. I say, no, it isn't. It is very, very hard. You have to be willing to make the commitment. It takes lots of effort, lots of time, and it takes a partnership that you have with the person close to you, because alone you can't do it, and without that support, it makes it very, very difficult.
That's right.
And so what we do is we also have a place in Victoria, or North Saanich, on Vancouver Island, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. So most of my companies are in northern BC.
What's the name of that place known for salt? There's a place that's anyway, I love Vancouver Island, part of that kind of northwestern Washington, and correct. Vancouver Island. Is that correct? That kind of area?
Yeah, and then North Saanich goes down. It's probably on the level of Mount Vernon in that area. So the climate on Vancouver Island is probably the best climate in Canada. And so, so what I do is I fly north to Prince George, usually Monday mornings, and then do my thing, worked 12, 14 hours a day, and then I go Friday afternoons. I fly back to Vancouver Island, and so we have a 50-acre farm there, a beautiful house there, and we have 7 horses, both my wife, myself. We ride English dressage, and I love it. It's paradise.
You know, the Salt Spring is the place I was thinking
Salt Spring,
about. Yeah. And one of the things that I've found has been helpful for my entrepreneurial journey is that we have a cabin 3 hours north in central Idaho, because I'm in Boise, like I said, and it's complete homesteading, like 5 acres, but I'm building my own stuff. I'm just experimenting and seeing what I can do with my hands, which is not much, but has been really a new piece of my upbringing, because I grew up in New York City, first Tel Aviv, then New York City. So I've been able to start, I think another piece of it is just reinventing yourself every kind of decade has been a really important part of my growth. And coming to Idaho has kind of like been the outdoors thing and this kind of like homesteading thing. So I really enjoy that part of my life as well.
So what I find amazing is that social tables, that is bringing people together. And so as you did with hospitality group, so very, very successful. And it reminds me of what they try to do and are doing is in platforms, social media, to a certain extent, because communication now looks so much different than it did 20, 30, 40 years ago, is where social media has become much more interesting, changing things. In particular, what I like, obviously, and so do you, I believe, is that media is changing, where all the major channels, like CNN, ABC, NBC, blah, 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 are all declining in listenership. So is the newspaper media to a certain extent. And what is emerging, I believe, is like podcasting in particular, which is relatively new. If you look at it right now, is that you and me sitting here, and you are somewhere in the United States, I believe, and I'm sitting in central British Columbia, and we're sitting here having a discussion, but at the same time, we know that people around the world will be watching us. It is amazing.
Number one. I mean, and you're number one in your category, which is, it is amazing. Remind me, what was just the latest rating you received?
So I'm a million subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yep.
And then my book is number one on Amazon and a number of other ones. And
and your team shared with me that you just received some very high level podcast rating, or may have been the 1 million viewers or subscribers, excuse me. And that reminds me, so this is the thing, John. My last business was software and kind of that social aspect, as you said. My new businesses, and I have several, are all focused on the real world.
Right.
And because I believe that that sense of belonging can only come so far from your online presence, from your social media, from your subscribers, from your influencers, and so on and so forth, which is why I'm focused on all my businesses in live interaction. So I have a cleaning company, because places need to be clean in order to be hospitable. I have a hospitality company, so I'm building small hotels. I have a pillow company, believe it or not, that helps couples talk about their feelings. It's a pillow, a decorational pillow, but it's got these feelings to identify what you appreciate and how you feel about your spouse.
Yeah.
And then I'm starting an audio-visual company to help people make their home more smart. And all these things are about creating memories in person and making spaces welcoming.
Interesting. So very demanding, though. Would it be, Dan, saying that?
No, no, not demanding.
Okay,
And I'll tell you why.
okay,
Because I have great people helping me.
yeah, and that's the key, right? You must have
Exactly.
a team. Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, so for every business, I have a key man or key
yeah,
woman.
yeah.
I'm very involved with my major business, Assemble, because I'm actually building a building for the first time in my life. Um, but and it's all my vision, but it's people who have been really helpful in making it happen.
So tell us about Assemble. Is the newest Assemble Hospitality Group is the newest company that you started. So what is the concept there? And then the other one, I got so many questions for you, is I know with the small hotels, you've been very successful in that as well, but maybe start with the assembly.
So it's the same concept, but one is more of a brand and one is more of a kind of hardware, if you will. There's the
Right.
kind of these gathering places. But basically, the thesis is that people want to come together. They're
Right.
getting social media, AI, all this stuff. We don't even know what's real anymore.
Right.
We don't even, I mean, you can be talking to a hologram of me. You can be talking to an AI version of me.
Right.
And in a few years, nobody would know.
No.
You know, based on all your podcasts, we can create a digital interviewer who has all your information and they can interview so what's real anymore?
Yeah.
And that's why I believe that people want to come together, whether it's a family reunion, whether it's a corporate meeting, whether it's a retreat for wellness, people need a space to come together. So I'm building one physically. So I'm building my first location here in Boise, Idaho.
Okay.
And then I'm going to build 19 more by 2035.
So, and what is the business model of it?
The business model is quite simple. It's you pay $3,100 to rent the whole place out, and so it's like an Airbnb, if you will, in that sense.
Right.
And that includes everything. And on top of that, we offer a service where we will book any activity for you or any experience, as people like to call it these days. So whether it's rafting, whether it's horse riding, whether it's a nature experience, we will book everything for you. So the second revenue generator is those bookings. We work with partners and we just take a cut off that, a take rate. And we plan, we plan the entire retreat, offsite, or reunion for you and your team or family.
Interesting. And so the dreams that a lot of people had about, I wish we could do this, that, or the other thing, really is what this is, where you bring the people together and then do a number of things that they would like to do or did not have the experience of doing it, and you create it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It's a new model then, really, Dan, isn't it?
It's a new model because it brings together the privacy of Airbnb,
right?
Where you're not sharing anything with anybody, and the amenities of a hotel. So you have the best of both worlds.
Right.
You have a private setting that's purpose built for bringing people together.
Right. So again, a new model, and so how does it? Was social tables the model that you created that became then the foundation of what you did next? Not the same necessarily, but in principle?
It was, because what I realized, so Social Tables was a software company. And basically, for those listeners familiar with AutoCAD or other design software, we were design software for events. So you basically decide where the tables go, where the doors are, how you exit, how you enter, who's sitting where. So that was very visual software. So, but what I realized in running my company, John, is that I realized I love what happens in small rooms. I love when the executive team comes together for a few days and puts together a vision, puts together goals, puts together KPIs. And that process is what I fell in love with. And that's why we were able to get to 20 million in revenue, to get to 6,000 customers worldwide, to get to 120 employees. It were those small rooms where the magic happened. And that's what I want to recreate for other people. I want to recreate that magic that happens in small rooms, because I like to say the biggest things happen in the smallest rooms.
See, it's amazing to me, $20 million in revenue.
In recurring revenue.
Right.
So we were growing 20, 25% year on year
Right.
in recurring revenue. So we had locked in those contracts for 7 years.
Right. Interesting. And now it is part of a bigger group or bigger organization?
That's correct. It was purchased by a company called Cvent, and they're owned by private equity now. They were public twice before they've been taken private twice, or I guess 3 times. And they their last valuation was about $5 billion.
Wow.
And they purchased me for $100 million.
Wow. So you must be, in my view, although you had a very, very sound background with your MBA and from Georgetown, obviously, and Hunter College. And so one of the things that I believe sets me apart from others is not my, academically, I was not a success story. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times. And so they said to my parents, they said, what are you going to do with this guy?
Yeah,
and some people said, send him to the mentally challenged school. They said, no, we're not going to do that.
Well, that's part of being a good entrepreneur, right? Is being a little mentally challenged.
I like it, so then but it always kind of, I was always an optimist, and the friends that I grew up with, when I became, they said, okay, but my dad had a friend that had a furniture factory, and he got me a job at the furniture factory. I was 12 and a half years old. And so that's where I want. And then my friends that went to college and universities all kind of looked down on me. I was a laborer. I'm proud of that today, but then it was kind of looked down on. And then that's where the idea came from. The second one came from, I want to go to Canada. I want to build a lumber mill. My grandfather was a master carpenter. My dad worked in lumber. And so my dream was go to Canada, build a lumber mill, start with nothing, because I wanted to prove to me that I'm just as smart as the others. But in order to do that, I had to start from nothing.
And when you challenge yourself, that's the best kind of challenge. And when people tell you no, that means yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I came here with the bus and came off the bus here. My $25.47. Yes, I do have the mill, and I have a number of other companies and all the other kind of things. But who am I was a challenge for me for many, many, many years, Dan. And it was not until I was here already for 32 years in Canada and did well in business, and everybody said, oh, you're so successful. I didn't feel that way. I felt I had failed even then in my mind. And it was not until I walked into a bookstore here in 1997, January 1997, I picked up a book, and I have the actual book here, is this one. I picked it up, Driven to Distraction, written by Dr. Halliwell, medical doctor, professor. He has written 18 books, 5 of them on distraction. He has ADHD and has dyslexia. And I read the book, I looked at the book, and the more I looked at it, I said, oh my God, that's me. And so I wrote in the book, and this is what I wrote in it. This is the actual book. 32 years ago, I wrote in it in Dutch because I was ashamed of it, because it was implied it was a mental deficiency. So I wrote in Dutch, now I finally know who I am. And it's January 1997. And so the more I read about it, and the more I looked at Google and looked all over the place and saying ADHD, and I thought, oh my God, the more I looked at it, I said, it's a superpower. So the other part that Dr. Halliwell, now you are my podcast number 471. I brought Dr. Halliwell on podcast number 203. I had him on my podcast, and we had a discussion for an hour. Amazing. And so
Wow.
I
What a
thought,
gift.
that maybe ADHD, maybe 10% of the population, or so I suggested to Dr. Hollywell, he's the expert, I just lived it, and saying to him, maybe up to 20%. He said, no, John, more than 25%. I agree with him. And then the other thing that I found, because I was active in businesses and boards of directors and all over the place, I had so much interaction that I came to the conclusion, and I suggested to Dr. Halliwell, of all the successful entrepreneurs that I've seen, I believe up to 50% of them are ADHD. He said, no, John, 75%. I agree with him. You know?
Well, it's funny. A few things come to mind as you talk about that story. First of all, it's incredible that you were able to speak to your hero. I mean, what a gift! What a gift!
It changed my life.
And then, yeah, absolutely. And now we know that all those things are positives, right? We know that though, mental issues. I mean, I was just diagnosed as bipolar a year ago, and now I realize that my bipolar disorder is part of the reason why I struggled, and then found coping mechanisms from that disorder. And what I write in my book is about how to find your sense of belonging.
Exactly.
And I talk about how every person has this tank. That's right. Yep. Every person has a tank, what I call a belonging tank. And our belonging tanks are filled differently. Some people get belonging from boards. Some people get it from their companies. Some people get it from home and having families. Some people get it from woodworking. And you have all this, that's how you find your sense of belonging. And I urge people to edit their sense of belonging, edit their belonging tank to strengthen their sense of belonging. Because in order to understand where you find your belonging, you have to understand what creates it for you and what takes it away from you.
Correct. And so the same for me, who am I, took me a long time to discover.
Yes.
The other part about me, Dan, was that I was not a good communicator. I was at lack of self-confidence doing even all the building. And it was not until about 1990, so when I was already 50 years old, that somebody said to me, hey, John, why don't you go with me to Toastmasters? I said, Toastmasters?
Oh, Toastmasters, yeah.
I said, what is that all about? He said, it's about communication skills. And I said, are they going to ask me questions? Because if they are, I'm not going. He said, no, you just sit there and watch. And halfway through the meeting, somebody said, hey, John, tell us all about it. I said, I'll never go back here. But I stayed there for 10 years. And it brought me to distinguished Toastmasters, the highest level in Toastmasters. And for people watching us from around the world, if you Google Toastmasters, it's substantially in North America, but also in Europe and other places. There's probably 10, 20 million people that have been part of it or partially part of it. It helped them in terms of becoming more effective in presenters and speakers. And so, but the most important part of Toastmasters, I believe, become a good listener. And then be able to articulate issues on your feet, and then become a good listener, and then after that, maybe a presenter. But which is already obvious to us watching you, is you're a very, very good communicator, and a very, very, the communication skills. That's why I wrote this book. It's not about how to become a billionaire, although you can, but it's more about the importance of communication skills are critically important. And so, and that's why I wrote that book. And not enough is done really in the training educational system of creating that communication skills. It is one of the most critical parts of relationships of any sort, but also in terms of becoming successful, entrepreneurial, and being in business and doing all the other things, including podcasting.
It's interesting because early on in my entrepreneurial career, I read a book called about strength-based leadership, and it talked about how communication is one of those skills that creates a halo effect. So even if you're not that smart, or if you have anxiety or whatever it is, if you communicate well, you send the message that you are smart, that you are uh, expressive, that you are thoughtful, and as a result, good things happen to you.
Exactly.
And that's why communication skills, I agree, are the number one skill people can develop in order to develop themselves.
This one here and that one there, so and I agree with you, so then if I look back to what happened to me, obviously, Second World War, and seeing far too much that we should not have seen, people being dragged out of their houses, never to come back, and obviously we know well that the Jewish population, up to 6 million of them, died in concentration camps in Germany. All that part was part of our lives. We lived it in our communities. And the
generational trauma as a result for the Jewish people. If there wasn't for the Holocaust, there could be almost 100 million Jews today.
Exactly.
And to think about how much, there's only 13 million in the world today. So to think about the impact, and they've had such an impact, the Jewish people had such an impact on the world, as has Israel. So to think about the loss for civilization is just, for me, very heartbreaking. And as a result, there's generational trauma related to that.
Yeah, and still about 9 million in Israel, I believe, as a population, and then another 4 million around the world. So so very much part of my life, and living all of that, and in our community. So PTSD very much part of my life, still is now. And then the other one in the child. The other thing that I do, but is very important to me, Dan, is that Remembrance Day is the week of November the 11th. I've always made it in the last 10, 12 years, since I was there. I lived it to speak to at least 3 or 4 different schools during that week about why the 2 minutes of silence. Why do we have to recognize that? And it is amazing. The first times that I did that 10, 12 years ago already, they said, well, the whole school is going to be there, and the classes, and people up to 16, 17, 18 years, we cannot keep them all quiet. I could have dropped a needle. And so unbelievable. They know it all. And as you know, in Holland, we still live it. Even the younger people.
Yeah, well, I can tell how emotional it is for you, and it's emotional for me too. I mean, my grandparents were lucky enough to escape to Israel during the war, but their parents were killed in the Holocaust. And I think that obviously Viktor Frankl's book on being able to survive in a concentration camp is such an important piece of work, because it talks about what we talked about. When you have a purpose to live, when you have a purpose to continue, that's what drives you, even the worst of times. And, I think about trauma, and I think about that everybody's trauma is at a maximum. Your trauma is at a maximum, and it's very serious. Other people may not have as big of a trauma as you or as me, but everybody's trauma is at a maximum.
Exactly.
I can't tell anybody my trauma is worse than yours or whatnot, because you haven't experienced mine and I haven't experienced yours. And you don't know anything else, and I don't know anything else. So everybody has trauma, which is why there is this great body of work now about post-traumatic growth and how we grow from the trauma we've experienced. Certainly you and me, to a much lesser extent, are an example of that no matter what has been thrown our way, we've been able to overcome.
And to communicate about it, to me, is something I have an obligation to do. And fortunately, I'm now a good communicator, I believe, and effective on vehicles like podcasting, which is only on its infancy, that brings it across the world. The other one is, amazingly, in my case, about 6-7 years ago, people talked to me already 20 years ago. They said, you had such an interesting life. Should I write a book about it? And you know, so and as you well know, writing books is not easy, and so for 20 years I stopped it, started, stopped it, started, stopped it, started, and then I knew 6 years ago if I didn't do it now, it would never happen. So I wrote my first book. It took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, and 2.5 years to write it against all odds. It's not how successful John is, it's just the opposite. It's about all the challenges around the way. And so I'm going to send you all my books. I wrote one on ADHD, Unlocked, and then I did another one, Finding Your Passion, Living the Dream, all things that are very important to me.
Rachel.
And I did the other one, is that the other part, thanks to my wife more than anything, and then I nearly died in 2008. I had a case of diverticulitis and it ruptured. It's usually an aggravation in your colon, but in some cases what happens, it ruptured. And you have a limited amount of time to get it fixed. Otherwise
like
it will kill you.
appendicitis. Yeah.
Yeah. And from there on in, I said, you know, my wife is a vegetarian, and so and I was not quite as committed to diet as she is, but now I am. So I'm probably 80-20, and now I'm closer to 90-10. And then the other thing I did is that I was just like everybody else. Going to the gym is saying that at the end of the year, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing, and then I'm going to go to the gym, buy a membership. And then 2 weeks later, I can find 100 reasons why I'm too busy to go to the gym. But I knew I had to do that, including diet, and I wrote a book about that. So I started in 2009 after I recovered from. The doc said to me the following morning after the operator, "You came this close," and that that gave me. So I got a trainer and I started training, and after about 6 years,
to see which book that is. Which book? You didn't show the book. Which book is that?
This one.
Living Young, Dying Old. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a picture of me.
Hey, is that you?
Yeah. That's me. So that's how I look today. And so
Holy shit.
Yeah, after about 6 years of training with the trainer, so somebody came to us at the training and said, "Hey John, have you ever thought about competing?" That was in 2017, 2018. I said, "Me? Yeah." And I said, "Okay." So, and we started training, and I started competing in Northern British Columbia. I came in second bodybuilding, third in physique. That qualified me for the provincials, did the same, qualified for the nationals and the Arnolds, and then COVID came. And so today, again, I'm still training again to go in 2026 to the Arnolds. And this is what I look like today. I'm going to send you a book of this as well.
Amazing. Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of my heroes. I think he's you share, he's from Austria. So you share those European roots. But a few things that you said came to mind for me. The first one is, for any listener out there, if you want to write a book, I always say the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Okay. And if you want to write a book, one word, one sentence, one paragraph, and you will get there. And then now with AI, you can just slowly write to AI and it will keep track of what you write and it'll automatically help you write your book. Now, the second thing I was going to say, you mentioned trainer. And even people who don't have a lot of money, I think it's really important to outsource certain things to people who are more professional and more capable than you are, because that time with the trainer buys you time later on. That time from a chef that even cooks one meal a week, you can eat well.
Exactly. And so and it's not about age or the number, I'm going to be 85. It's quality of life that matters. And so too many people, say, "Well, I'm too old for this," or "I'm too old for this." And I said, "No, you're not." It's.
Tell me, tell me about it. I have a 1-year-old and I'm 43. So I'm almost, and my birthday, I'll turn 44 November 19th. So we share the same month and the same birth sign.
Scorpio.
And, I don't really believe in those things, but being a Scorpio certainly helps a little bit because we have that personality that gets shit done.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you say that. People say to me, "What is your birthday sign?" I said, "Well, I think Scorpio." Oh, that's why you are. I never pay too much attention to it, but it does have those characteristics, you know. So this one here, then. So that's what I'm doing now, and even after our podcast is over, I'm go 4 times a week, work with the trainer, train very, very hard. And so I love it, I enjoy it. And so, but I'm saying to people that are older, anytime, up to 40, 50 years, go to the gym, train, because it's worth it. And it's all about quality of life. And then longevity becomes, if you're sitting in a, have all kinds of issues, all kinds of problems, it's quality of life that you still can do, as I do. I still run 10 different companies. I still do podcasting. I still do writing books. All of that is possible.
Incredible. Yeah, I think that for me, if I'm being honest, I hate the gym. I hate working out. But after I do it, I'm so grateful I did it.
Yes.
I only started running when there's this joke with my wife. I started running in our honeymoon in Rome, and my joke is that I started running away from her.
I was going to ask why.
But it's actually because there was a show that I was inspired by. He used to run in Rome, but I picked up running at 40, and I was always scared of running. I was always intimidated by it. I was intimidated by my body dysmorphia. I was scared of how I look, and I've been able to conquer those things because of my dedication to working out, even though I freaking hate it every time.
Yeah. The interesting part about me is that maybe because I came this close to death, that I knew that I wanted to stay active with all the things that I do. I wanted to do more of it because of all the challenges that I had growing up. Who am I? And I have peace of mind now, not saying that I'm better than, but I now understand who I am, and I have an obligation to share that with others. If it is about ADHD, dyslexia, or all the other things, I'm working on my 6th book. And so
that's amazing.
And then the other part that was interesting that you said was AI. So this book here, all my books, I have audios of it that I did myself. It takes me a long time to read them. So with AI, what we did, this book here, with $1 billion communication skills, say, why don't we use AI to do the audio? And I said, how do we do that? And he said, well, we'll get your voice to read it. I said, my God, can we do it? So we did that. So AI audio is, or the $1 billion communication skill, audio is done by AI. And I cannot see the difference between me and any of the other books that I did. Amazing.
So how do you get inspiration to write more books? Like where do the ideas come from for you?
It's pretty much all about me and quality of life and all the things that I did against all odds. I believe the challenges that I had along the way, as you probably did as well with the quest, is that I go back to the beginning. Then the other one that changed my life in terms of the challenges along the way. And then the other one, reading the book about attention deficit, I felt I had to write about that, ADHD Unlocked. And then the other one is that what I always say is that I do a lot of presenting to younger people in high schools, colleges, universities. And then I ask a lot of them, or some of them say, what are you going to do when you finish theater? And most of them say, I don't know. And I say, respectfully, it's important to know what direction should I go. So if you think about being a truck driver, talk to a truck driver. Talk to one about, do you own the truck? Do you do short hauls, long hauls, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Or you want to be a contractor. You want to do heating contracting, talk to somebody that does that. You want to talk to somebody that builds houses, talk to somebody. They love to talk to you. Or you want to be a lawyer, an accountant, or a doc for that matter, or for that matter, an entrepreneur. I get people asking me and saying, okay, yeah, sure, I'll have a coffee with you, tell you about some of the things. And so it's critical because the other reason that I wrote the book, I heard it on a U.S. television station that said that 75% of the people in the United States, and I believe Canada is the same, do not like their jobs. And 70% of the 75% are looking for another job. I say, if you start understanding where your direction may be and why it is important, that's why I wrote this book. And I thought that was important. Beautiful. This one is obvious, right, why I wrote it. It's quality of life. And the other one, communication skills, I was there until 1990 when I was 50. I couldn't even communicate with any more people than maybe 2 or 3 in my companies at the same time because I had lack of self-confidence. And so Toastmasters helped me in that and brought me forward. But I always was good at numbers. I always was good at writing, not reading, obviously. And obviously I'm a good communicator now. That was always there.
They say those who can't do teach.
Exactly.
And that's exactly, if you can't do it, you teach it. So the things you can't do, you're the best teacher at. I've always struggled with my sense of belonging. So I like to teach people. It's why my book has 120 professionally cited academic journals and books, because I really value that kind of research, because I back up what I say. And then in addition to that, you mentioned communication. My biggest piece of advice for entrepreneurs listening who have a team is to write what I call your owner's manual. And your owner's manual is how to communicate with you. Because just like you know how to communicate with other people now, people need to know how to communicate with John Brink. Yeah. And the way to do that is take all the information you know about yourself. You are your best. There is this kind of idea that you know things about yourself, other people know things about you, and together those are the things who make you up. So if you're able to take that information and say, I like direct communication, I like emails in one sentences, not long paragraphs, I like text over this, all those things are important for other people to know. And that's why I call it the owner's manual.
Yeah, no, critically important. And I like it again. So it's available so when did it come out, Dan?
One year ago, November 19th, my birthday last year.
And so it's available on all major areas?
That's right. All Amazon, most of my sales, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and anybody who emails me, any listener who emails me or gets in touch with me, I will send them a free book, digital version of my book.
So the other parts that I saw, all your credentials or the awards that you have, is that after the book, or is that before the book, or is it a collection on all of them because of the book, or because you're the speaker? How did you become, so you're very, very popular. You've been under all the major medias. Is that, for me, it's always been a question of that when I started podcasting and writing in the latter part of my life, probably mid-70s, and podcasting I've been doing for about 3, 4, 5 years, in my 80s, really, how do I raise my profile? John A. Brink, how do I raise the profile? Because where I like to go, I'm very active in podcasting, where I'm guesting, as well as obviously being guest on others as well, and then doing podcasting. How do I I want to get to a profile or a platform that I'm doing. So that's on my mind.
Yeah, I think the first thing you're doing is brilliant, is that sharing your knowledge and doing it in good faith. A lot of people don't necessarily do it in good faith. And like I said, those who don't do teach. So being able to teach other people, obviously you also do, but sharing the struggles and being honest about them, being completely honest, being an open book. I, for example, talk about being in recovery. I've been in recovery now for a year, and I talk about addiction, and I'm very open about it. So there is nothing that I won't talk about.
Right.
And that makes me, I think, approachable.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, most of the awards, to answer your question, came during my last company, Social Tables, because that's kind of where I was known. And my goal is to create a new industry with my new company that doesn't exist right now. And hopefully that will yield some results. But for me, the number one thing has been adding value before I take value. And I do that everywhere I go.
So how do you see things going forward, looking at AI being one of them, the media that we know as the traditional media, CNN, ABC, CV, and all of those, it came in Canada, CBC, same as in Europe. The medias are changing. Social media, much more active, is questionable in some cases, but still is. Facebook, good example. But then podcasting is only on its infancy because it is so effective. Like what I'm doing in mine, I'm trying to be unique with all the reasons that you have been totally honest about who I am, what I've been, where I've been, why I've been. And then at the same time, what I do is that my podcasts are an hour. I release it unedited, no changes to it, none at all, and I've not done any like that. And 471 is yours, and I release it within 2 hours.
Incredible.
That's what
I think so. I'm starting a podcast, but just on retreats. So for me, it's really a niche. I want to talk to people who host and plan retreats, and I want to make a podcast that helps other people who want to plan retreats or who plan retreats become better. So, for example, I had somebody who actually is a trainer for marathon runners on my podcast, and he plans retreats on people who want to become marathon and better runners. So that's his retreat, and he talked about how to create sport and athletic retreats. So I think it's really important to focus on that niche and become an expert in that niche, because I love the blue ocean strategy. Instead of going in the red ocean where everybody's killing each other, you go in the blue ocean where it's deep and wide. And that is where there's opportunity. And that's what I focus on, is my niche. And if everybody focuses on their passion, like you teach people, then they can then be authentic when they communicate and when they share those things.
I love it, Dan. Again, I'm showing you a book once more. It is available on Amazon in particular, but on other media as well. Did you do an audio on this one?
I did an audio. I did an ebook. I recorded the audio myself. I think, like you said, it's very important. Yeah. And I think, you touched on AI. What I've done is I've taken the book and made it available via AI so people can talk to the book, and as a result, talk to me.
I like that. I never heard that before. How does that work?
Yeah. Well, you basically create a knowledge base with your book and your blogs and your writing and your transcripts. I mean, you can take that for 471 episodes, put all the transcripts in there, take all your books, put your ebooks in there, and then people can talk to you, John. People can talk to you, and you become much more scalable. And that's for free. I offer that for free as well.
I love it. So, Dan, this was amazing. We can still go on for another hour, but for all the people watching us from around the world, look up Dan's book, obviously, The Quest, very, very informative, and then subscribe to our podcast, like it if you like it, share it with others, have suggestions, let us know how can we do better and how can I do better. Again, Dan, it was a privilege and a pleasure. Let's make sure we stay in touch. This podcast will be released in 2 hours, and I'm going to send you copies of all my 5 books that I have now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm going to sign them for you. And Scott will have your address. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Thanks again, Dan.
Put your message in Dutch.
I will do that. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Okay, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.